Good morning, everyone. Just gonna wait for some people to tune in to the live. How's everyone doing? And as you're tuning in, please leave a comment and let me know that you're in here. Um, leave your where you're dialing in or tuning in from. I'm in Orlando, Florida. Leave in the comments, say hi, let me know you're in here and you guys can hear me. Just gonna give it a few minutes before I continue. So I have like a mint in my mouth. I need to clear my throat a little bit. How's everyone doing? And I'm live today on YouTube and Facebook. It's a little dark because I forgot my light, so I can't stream on Instagram. So if you guys can see me well, you can let me know. This is as bright as I can make it. Thank you so much, Favor Carrie. Good morning. I hope you're having a great morning as well. So let me introduce myself. My name is Ayesha Chidolue. I'm an immigration attorney in Orlando area, Florida. I help clients with family immigration matters. So regardless of where you live in the United States, I can assist you with your immigration matter. So, I have a good topic for you guys. I always try to bring good topics for you guys. So today I want to talk about how to become a U.S. citizen. So this is an area where, most of us, attorneys frequently don't talk much about because, we focus more on green card holders. But, a green card is a wonderful thing to have. But, the ultimate destination is to be able to become a U.S. citizen. And, what are the benefits of being a U.S. citizen? I mean, the two critical or three critical benefits, for me that I see is that one, you have the ability to vote. There's so many people who run for election and make decisions that affect your life, on a local level, on a state level, on a country level. And if you're one of those people like I am and many other Americans are that scream on the TV or scream about something we don't agree with over on the TV when you're watching somebody or the news, there's nothing more frustrating knowing that you cannot vote or your voice cannot be heard by voting. So becoming a U.S. citizen allows you to vote. The other critical thing is that, sometimes life happens, right? And people get into criminal infractions or get into trouble, or commit crimes, or whether it was their fault or not, or whether it was they took a plea. When you're a green card holder, sometimes depending on what it is that you're being charged for, you can end up being deported. Good morning, Petronella. Thanks for tuning in. So it just really depends on what your crime is. I always use a famous example. I don't know if you guys watch Real Housewives of New Jersey. If you guys, let me tell you guys a little bit about myself. I'm sure most of you guys don't know anything about me personally, but I love reality TV. And so I watch all the Real Housewives franchise and all of that good stuff. But anywho, in Real Housewives of New Jersey, I don't know if you guys remember Joe Giudice. He was Teresa's husband, and he had been in this country since he was 2 years old. He was a green card holder. He was married to a U.S. citizen. He had 4 children that are U.S. citizens. And then, he committed tax fraud or tax evasion and was arrested. And so was his wife. But what ended up happening? He ended up getting deported to back to Italy. So even though he's Italian, he had never lived in Italy, since he was 2 years old. And there's absolutely nothing he could do about it because according to the USCIS, what he did was a crime of moral turpitude. And if he had naturalized and become a U.S. citizen, he wouldn't have had to go through that. Good morning, Tamika. Tamika, you're on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. So, oh yes, Trudy says she watches Real Housewives. Okay, so I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one in here that watches Real Housewives or reality TV. I mean, that's all that's on TV these days when I have time. But yeah, so he ended up getting deported, and now the only way for him to see his children is if his children move to Italy, or they come visit him. So those are two like critical things where you want to be free, right? You want to be free from, if God forbid you get into any criminal issues, that you're not going to be deported or have your green card rescinded. That's number one. Number two, you want the ability to vote. So now let's talk about how to become a U.S. citizen. So there are different paths to U.S. citizenship, and I'm going to try and break it down as simple as possible for you guys. So, there are two routes for green card holders to become citizens, either the 5-year route or the 3-year route. So the 3-year route, oh, wow, Trudy tuning in all the way from Jamaica. Trudy tuning in all the way from Jamaica. Nice, nice, nice. Thank you for tuning in. So, as I was saying, so the 3-year route really applies to the following people. So if you got your green card based on marriage and you're currently still married, right? You can apply for naturalization. When I say naturalization, what I'm basically saying is become a U.S. citizen. You can apply for that as long as you're still married to your husband, right? There is an exception. If you do get approved for VAWA, okay, you can apply for naturalization after 3 years as well, even if you divorce your spouse. If you do get your conditions on your green card removed based on abuse, you can apply for naturalization within 3 years from the first date of temporary green card status. So you're not going to count from the date when they remove the conditions on your green card. You're going to count from the date that you first got your conditional green card. So if they approved you for your conditional green card in, let's say, 2019, and in 2021, you remove the conditions on your green card. In 2022, you remove the conditions based on abuse. In 2022, you'll be eligible to apply for citizenship. Okay. And then what is the 5-year path? The 5-year path is for everybody else. TT Fabulous says, good morning, life changer. Thank you so much. Good morning to you. Where are you tuning in from, TT? As I was saying, so everybody else falls into the 5-year category. So if, let's say, you're in a regular marriage and just so happens that things didn't work out, and you guys got divorced, you want to wait 5 years, okay, before you file for citizenship. And then, if you got your green card through other means, like through employment base, through investment base, and all those things, then you want to wait 5 years to do it. Some of the critical things that you need to qualify. I know the video is so dark, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm like trying to face the window. So it's driving me crazy that it's so dark, but as long as you guys can see me clearly, that's fine. As I'll say, some of the things that you're going to need to show in order for you to qualify for citizenship is, one, they're going to want to look at your past 5-year travel history. Okay, so in the last 5 years, they're going to be looking at how long have you been outside of the United States. So they do it, it's, the simple math is 2.5 years out of those 5 years, you need to have been in America. Okay. And if you've not been, or if you're on that cusp, you want to really show substantial ties to the United States, because basically it's like you're abandoning your residency here, because, you have to show that you live in, America, and you want to, become a citizen of America. So like, if, so usually you're going to be listing how many times you've traveled outside the country in the last 5 years, how long you traveled, especially if you traveled for more than 6 months. So you want to be very mindful of that. And then if you travel for quite a long time, basically you just restart counting. Danny said, yes, that's the problem I heard. Oh, that's the problem you had? Oh, yeah. A lot of people have that problem. For a lot of people, sometimes they get the green card and they want to spend more time in their home country and just come back and forth. If you do that, you want to be careful, just so, one, you don't lose your green card status, and two, if you want to naturalize, you don't have to start counting again from the beginning. So that's number one. Number two, critical, Pay your taxes. File your taxes. You should be filing taxes, because basically you're saying that, you know what, I love this country. I want to be an American. And so I'm going to do what Americans do. Right. And which is paying taxes. So they don't like to see when people don't pay their taxes. And even if you do owe money on your taxes, as long as you have a payment arrangement with the IRS, like a payment plan, and you're making your payments, you should be fine. But don't just ignore it. Don't just leave it. Also, if you're divorced, and you don't have custody of your children, what they want to see, like child support. They want to see and make sure that you're paying for all your minor dependents or your minor children, and that you're taking care of child support. So if you have back child support, that's also going to affect you. Also, another thing that they look at is your so when it comes to taxes, they're looking at your last 5 years. If you're filing based on the 5 years, and if you're filing based on the 3 years, then they're looking at your 3 years, based on marriage, and they're looking at the last 3 years. Let's see, what else have I now talked about? Okay, and then the other thing is crimes of moral turpitude. That's a whole another topic on its own, so I can't really get into it now, but basically they're looking at crimes that they consider morally wrong. And a simple way to think about it are crimes that basically the sentence is more than 365 days in prison. So anything that you can be sentenced for more than 365 days in prison, it's safe to say that it would probably fall under a crime of moral turpitude. So they look at the last 5 years. So even though they look at the last 5 years, honestly, they sometimes will go further back, in looking to see that you've rehabilitated yourself. So just, if you have a green card, just stay away from trouble. That's what I would say. Stay away from trouble. When you become a U.S. citizen, do whatever you want. Well, don't do whatever you want, but basically stay away from trouble. And then for men, usually between the ages of 18 to, is it 33 or 32? Don't quote me on this. I got to remember if it's 32 or 33. They want to see that you've registered for selective service. And selective service is basically you just saying that, if the military needs you, that you're willing to, fight, if there's a war or anything like that. There are exemptions depending on when you got your green card or how old you were when you got your green card and all of that stuff. But, those are more minute details that I'll be happy to get into if you do qualify. And then the other thing is that, the state where you live and your address, you have to have been living there for at least 3 months before you file for naturalization. So those are some of the basic requirements. The other thing is that we see a lot is that people lie and omit that they have children when they do their green card or when they file for a visa or whatever. Guys, please stop doing this. Honestly, it's better to just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. You have a child. If you qualify for a green card, you're going to qualify for a green card regardless, whether you have a child or not. I have so many people that come to me in a bind because that's what happened. They lied and said they didn't have a child, and then come time for naturalization, they want to now file for their child. And I'm like, well, if your child wasn't there, you can't, because then they'll say that you don't have a good moral character and you could get your green card revoked. So please try and tell the truth. Don't hide your family members, when you're filing for your green card and all that stuff, because it's going to come and bite you, when you're doing your citizenship. So from an application standpoint, those are the very basics. Obviously there's more that goes into it, but those are the very basics. And then right before your interview, one of the things that's really critical is that you study for the civics test. So the civics test is a 100-question test. When I say 100 question, it's 100 questions to study. And it ranges from different things related to America, from the Constitution, the Revolution, the Civil War, geography, all the gamut. You could get a question about, the executive branches, who's the president, who's the senator, name, what ocean borders the West, what did Abraham Lincoln do for Americans? Just these are all random questions, right? That you could get. So you want to study them. So out of those 100 questions, what typically happens in an interview is that they're going to ask you 10 questions. And out of those 10 questions, you just need to get 6 correct. If you get 6 correct, then you would have passed your civic test. If you don't get 6 correct, you're going to need to come back and retake that test. So it's really important to study. There's so much study materials, flashcards, if you're a visual learner, like on the USCIS website that you can use to study and all of that stuff. There's also a reading and writing test. And the reading and writing test is to test your English language. Usually there are a few couple of areas where you get an exception. If you're 50 and over, and depending on how many years you've had your green card, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, depending on your age, where you fall, you might get an exception for the written portion and the writing portion, and they would even allow you to use a translator if you're within that age and you've had your green card for years. And then the only time they would usually exempt you, and then if you're 65, usually you can, and you've had your green card for more than 20 years, you can also get an exception, not an exception, you can get some easier questions to study, like a shorter list of questions to study. There's another exception that you do get if you have a learning disability. If you have a learning disability, you can be exempt from taking the civic test, but your doctor has to basically certify that well before you submit your application, at least 6 months before you submit your application, stating what's going on. Guys, and as I'm talking, please feel free to, ask your questions or comment. Ask me anything about immigration. If it's something I can answer on here, I'll answer it. If not, I'll, let you know so you can give me a call for a consultation. Feel free to ask me those questions. And then let's see what else. And then, of course, you go through questions where they're basically asking you if you're going to defend the Constitution, you're going to support America and all those things. If you have a title in another country, are you willing to denounce your title? If you're a prince, or something like Prince Harry, if you wanted to be an American, things like that. And, ultimately that's it. And, if you pass, you become a U.S. citizen, and that's the beginning of the rest of your life, living the American dream. So that's really how it works. I'm going to take some questions now. So let me just look in the comments and see what's going on. Okay, somebody says, okay, why is this? I passed my civics test, reading and writing test, but a decision was not made on my case that day because they said I was out of the country for a long time. What can I do? So Danny, your question is a very specific one. That's no, it's very vague. So I would suggest a consultation, because what is a long time? Did they deny you? Are they still reviewing your case? How long were you out of the country? Did it start the clock? So there are so many variables to it. So I would need to know more details about you and your case to figure out when you're out of the country. Let's do the clock calculation to see when they started, if you need to reapply and all of that stuff. So somebody says, how about if I'm here in the US and I want to know how I can get a green card? I've been working for the last 5 years, paying my taxes and not any claim. What can I do? Jabali, well, thank you, for, working hard and paying your taxes. Unfortunately, at this time, there's no path to a green card just because you've been in the country for a couple of years and you've been paying taxes. I know it sucks, but that's what it is right now. I've talked about this several times over the last few months, and that Biden introduced a bill, but right now the bill is being taken apart and in little increments. So to be honest, I don't know what's going to happen to that bill. If that bill passes, it's possible that you're going to have a path to citizenship, an 8-year path, but it's not on the table right now. What's on the table right now is TPS and DACA recipients. So for right now, you don't immediately qualify for anything. And then depending on how you came into the United States, your best bet might be a family-based immigration, or if you've overstayed, well, you wouldn't qualify to do investment or employment if you've overstayed and you're not in status. Hope that answered your question. Hi, Afe. Afe says, hi, ma'am. Please, how soon can I file for a green card? I got married this month. You can file as soon as you want. Just remember that the critical thing, though, is that you should still be able to show that you have a bona fide marriage. So obviously, because you've been married in a month, you've just been married for 1 month, they're going to, you're not going to have as many evidence of your bona fide marriage, right? But you still want to try to gather as much stuff as you can over the course of while your case is processing, so that when you do attend the interview, you can present all those things. Sometimes you might actually get what we call an RFE, which just means a request for evidence, which is at that time they'll ask you for additional evidence. That usually comes a couple of months after you file. So at that time, some of the things that you have, you can submit them at that time. Hi, Peter. Peter says, when can I file for my 10-year green card? I'm still waiting on my green card. Peter, so your question is not very clear. So do you already have a green card that was approved and you're just waiting on it? Was it a temporary green card you got? If you can clarify that for me, I'll be able to answer your question better. And then Ruth says, hi, Ruth. For VAWA, can you still be living with your husband? Yes, you can still be living with your spouse. Or you can leave your spouse. It doesn't really matter. That has no bearing on whether your spouse is abusive towards you or not. So that doesn't matter. It doesn't change your case. Okay. So hi, Effie. She says, hi, Ayesha, can you apply for citizenship if you haven't received your 10-year green card? Have you received any green card at all, Effie? So if you've not received your 10-year green card and you're a conditional green card holder, yes, you can. So this is what happens sometimes. So sometimes if you're a conditional green card holder, and let's say you and your spouse file jointly to remove the conditions in your green card. And for those who don't know, conditional green card means that you have a 2-year temporary green card, right? So if you're a conditional green card holder and you file to remove your conditions, and at the 3-year mark from the date in which you got your conditional green card, they still haven't made a decision in your case, you can file for citizenship. And what ends up happening is that you might end up doing a double interview at the same time for your removal of condition and your citizenship. So if that's what you're talking about, yeah, you can do that. Hey, Andy. Andy says, my birth certificate doesn't include my parents' names. Is that going to be an issue when I'm putting in my paperwork? Yes, it depends on whose name. What do you mean your birth certificate does not include your parents' name? Does it not include your mother's name, the person, or are you talking about your father? So because a lot of times some men's names are not there, like especially if the child is out of wedlock, or for whatever reason the parents are not on speaking terms and the mother, but your mom's name should be in your birth certificate. So I'm not really sure. Han Pikey says I passed her question, and I don't see it. Let me scroll up and see if I can find it. Han, okay. If an address change was done, but the field office during my I-485 is the old state I lived, how will that affect me? I got my I-360 approval. Congratulations. So you actually got a letter asking you for your medical? Is that what you're telling me? Because if you did, that's good news. So clarify for me what it is you got. Because if you got a letter basically asking you to submit your medicals, that means you're actually waiving your interview, meaning you're not going to have an interview, which will be very good. Let's see what else we've got here. Okay. Andy, okay, so you're saying about your parents. So yeah, I would have to speak to you, like I'll be doing some sort of guesswork or whatever. I need to understand your circumstances, what you're applying for. Are you applying for yourself? Are you applying for your parents? Like all of those things need to be known. And I wouldn't suggest talking about that on Facebook. I would say you should do a consultation. Um Oh, okay. So Peter, so you were saying what I asked. So basically, you're asking when can you file your citizenship? That you already removed the conditions, or you already applied to remove conditions, and you're still waiting. Okay. So Peter, if you feel pretty confident that you have really strong bona fides and you're going to get approved for removal of condition, if it's been up to 3 years, so well, technically 90 days even before the 3 year mark. So if you count from the date that you got your temporary. If it's up to 3 years since then, you can file for your citizenship. Okay. Okay, so you sent your medical. Okay, Han, that's good. I mean, don't quote me on this. Obviously, everything I tell you guys is not legal advice. I'm just trying to educate you guys and give you information. But that's usually good news when they ask you to submit your medical exam by mail, because it means they're bypassing your interview. So I have a feeling you're going to get some good news. Let's see, what other questions am I missing? Guys, ask your questions before I jump off. Somebody asked, how soon can I get my work authorization when I file my papers? So the answer is that it really depends. It depends on what you're petitioning for. If I remember, you're the one petitioning based on marriage. So if you're petitioning based on marriage, typically I always hesitate to give a timeline because I don't want to be quoted on this, just because with the pandemic, it's changed a lot of things, but it could be anywhere from 5 to 8 months. Things are so delayed right now that it could be anywhere from 5 to 8 months, so usually around, or 6 to 7 months, somewhere in that window. Some people are incredibly lucky. They get their work permit in like 4 months, but or even sometimes even less, but those are usually unicorns. Those don't happen often. So the average time is going to be between like 5 to 7 months. Hi, Andrea. She says, what if you did your interview, your husband didn't answer all the questions properly, in my opinion, and they told you they would review your case and send you a notice in the mail? So what it means is, if they don't feel convinced that you and your spouse have a bona fide marriage based on the way you've answered it, you will get what we call a NOID, which is a notice of intent to deny, in the mail. And usually the notice of intent to deny is not a denial, but they're just giving you like an alert that unless you answer those questions, there's a potential that we're going to deny your case. So in that notice meaning letter that is sent you, they're going to list out all the things that were answered wrong, or that you guys had different answers to. And I'll be curious if you had a Stokes interview or a regular interview. And for those who don't know, a Stokes interview is when they separate you and your spouse. A regular interview is when they leave two of you together. So if they brought up they'll list all those discrepancies, and then you have to answer them. If you answer them to their satisfaction, then you get your approval. If you don't answer it to their satisfaction, you'll get a denial, and they'll give you either an option to appeal or to, file a motion to reconsider, reopen, and, stuff like that. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Hi, Sandra. Okay, Sandra says, my mom got her letter to do her interview and she filed for me. My question is that the same time when my mom gets her green card, will I get mine then? The answer is it really depends. So even though your mom filed for you, it depends on when she filed for you. Was it submitted in the same application? Sometimes I submit clients' cases literally in the same envelope, and sometimes, one child gets their stuff a couple of weeks after the other person, so it really depends. And also it really depends on your age, so I don't know what your category is. So it's really hard to answer your question because I don't know where you fall in the application process, because all those things make a difference. Okay, Andrea, you had a regular interview. Yeah, so if they're not happy with the answers and they feel there's a discrepancy, they will send you a notice of intent to deny. If it's something they consider minor, and they believe you, they may approve you. Okay, so Favor Carrie asks, after the bypass of your biometrics for Val, what happens? Nothing. You just have to wait. Bypassing is just something they're doing newly just because of the pandemic. So I've talked about this a couple of times. Because of the pandemic, the biometrics office was closed to the public from March till July. And so there's a 1.3 million application backlog of cases to do biometrics for. So what they started doing was, if you have any kind of biometrics, recent biometrics in the system, like either for one of your other petitions, because let's say in Favor Carrie's case, who has a VAL application, so you're going to be doing biometrics for normally for an I-360, biometrics for your 485 and biometrics for your I-765. So if they have one biometrics out of all three of them, sometimes they'll just bypass the other one because they can use the same fingerprint for all the cases. And that's just something that they're doing more recently. Before the pandemic, you actually do everything at the same time. But, we are all having to pivot and adjust with the pandemic. So it means nothing. You just basically wait for your case. A typical VAWA case takes 24 months. After you get your work permit, you're just in a waiting state. You're just in a waiting state. If they need additional evidence, they'll request additional evidence. If they don't need additional evidence and they can make a decision on what they have, they'll make a decision, but you're looking at least 24 months for them to make a decision. So during that time, if your work permit expires, you can then renew your work permit once you're about 4 months into expiration. Okay. So let's see. Okay, Sandra, you said that you're waiting for your biometrics. Yeah, you'll get scheduled for biometrics, or they may bypass your biometrics. I'm not really sure. But it really depends on how your mom filed. So it's not necessary that both of you get it on the same day. Okay. Darcy is asking if your husband passed away. So so the question is a bit vague. Are you saying, can you still get your citizenship? Okay, I see your other question. You're saying if your husband passed away, can you still get your citizenship? Yeah, you can still get your citizenship. If your husband passed away, remember you're a green card holder. And remember, it's just about timelines. So you either have the 3-year or the 5-year option, but you'll still be eligible for citizenship as long as you don't commit any crime, you're paying your taxes, you've lived in the same place for 3 months, and you can pass all your tests. Okay, Mike Valdez said, I had a case for removal, but it'd been 4 years and nothing had happened. Can I file for my citizenship? Okay, so Mike, do you mean that you have a case where you want to remove the conditions on your green card? Okay, yeah, you can file for your citizenship if you feel strongly that you had very strong bona fide marriage and that you have all the evidence that's needed to prove that, you had a legitimate marriage, and sometimes it might even actually help make a decision on your removal of condition case quicker. So the only time that I recommend doing a simultaneous at the same time citizenship application and while your removal of condition pending is if you have a slam dunk case. And what do I mean a slam dunk case? You guys have all your stuff together and there's absolutely no question or confusion, but that you have a legit marriage, you have all your paperwork, all your proof that you guys live together, all your proof of vacation, you have children, you have basically everything. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, guys, give me a second to read more questions. Okay, so Tiffany says, I filed an I-360 a year and a half ago. No answer yet. I filed separately permanent residence. I have returned to my country. Tiffany, we need a consultation. I wouldn't be able to answer this question here. You're definitely not eligible for citizenship because you don't even have a green card. Based on what you're saying, you can't become a citizen if you don't have a green card. But I'm more concerned with the fact that you filed a petition and that you've moved back to your country. That concerns me, because there might be an abandonment issue, but it also depends on what your I-360 was filed for. Are you a widow? Like, did you file based on that? But Tiffany, call me 407-995-6567. It's not yours is not a simple answer, and I don't want to give an answer that will confuse the rest of the audience because yours is a bit peculiar. Okay, guys, do you guys have any other questions for me? Let's see what else we got here. Let me scroll up. Okay, I think I got all the questions answered. So as always, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. All right, guys, take care. Bye.